Are you tired because your home being too cold or too hot? Do you constantly have to adjust the radiator valves? Is it annoying that your love of your life turns the room into a fridge or an oven? Are you paying high bills while you still feel cold in some rooms? You already have smart valves which consumes a lot of batteries? Do you carry your thermostat with you around the house or it has a permanent location? You are just unable to make all rooms temperature comfortable and predictable? There must be a better way to do this. In this video, I will show you my own solution which solves all the issues above while creating some new ones. I'm Peter and this is Demo Effect. Greetings to everyone in a fitting manner. In this video series, I will begin showcasing the project that led me to create this channel. In 2019, we moved into a large 3-story tall country house. The house came with an old natural gas-based boiler, the type that uses indoor air for combustion. This means that if there is an issue with the chimney or the ventilation, a fatal carbon monoxide poisoning could easily occur. The house has a bunch of radiators and aside from two, I plan to regulate all of them. Regulating the temperature around the house is hard because we have only one thermostat. I like to keep the temperature around me from dropping below my personal freezing point around 25 degrees Celsius, but my wife absolutely cannot stand the warmth that I find comfortable. Because all of this, our first heating season was a complete nightmare. Our very first step was to replace the old boiler with a modern, more efficient condensating gas boiler. This was not only a wise decision in terms of energy savings, but also crucial for safety, especially since the boiler/server room is located right next to my workshop/office, meaning I would be the first victim if something went wrong. The second step was replacing the rubber seals on the windows and doors. The old seals has become completely brittle and cracked, providing little to no insulation. Fortunately, our windows and doors were still the type where the rubber can be replaced, but I've noticed that the manufacturer nowadays tends to glue them in place instead. I also bought a few Zigbee-based radiator thermostats. Luckily, my radiators have N30 valves, making it easy to find a compatible product, but I still had the central thermostat controlling when the boiler turned on or off, which remained a major limitation. After installing the thermostats and setting up the automation in Home Assistant, the temperature fluctuation started to decrease, and I also noticed a slight reduction in my gas bill. Encouraged by this, I quickly bought a few more Zigbee radiator valves and some additional Zigbee-based temperature sensors. The built-in temperature sensors in the thermostats were far from accurate, their window status detection was unreliable, and even with calibration options, they couldn't be fully trusted. The device calibrated in a warm or cold state will inevitably show incorrect values in the opposite condition. For this reason, every room received a dedicated temperature sensor placed away from the doors and windows for more reliable readings. By the next heating season, every relevant radiator was equipped with a Zigbee radiator thermostat. To manage this effectively, I had to rewrite the automation in Node-RED. It took some time to get used to the asynchronous execution model, but in the end, I achieved a much more transparent and robust solution, as will be demonstrated in the later episode of the series. With dedicated temperature sensors and radiator valves used as dumb devices, I developed the following concept. If the set target temperature for a given room is lower than the temperature measured by the independent sensor, the valve opens and the binary sensor assigned to that room is set to true. If any room's binary sensor is true, the central thermostat is set to 35 degrees Celsius, triggering the gas boiler. If all rooms' binary sensors are false, the central thermostat is set to 20 degrees Celsius, which shuts down the gas boiler. The central thermostat is located near the servers, where the temperature remains between 24 and 25 degrees Celsius during the winter. To prevent the boiler from constantly switching on and off, a sensor evaluation are handled by a scheduled task running every 5 minutes. The system fundamentally worked well, but we went through a pile of AA batteries. Each valve consumed 3 pairs of batteries per winter, which with 12 radiators and 2 batteries per valve added up 72 batteries per season. This meant constant maintenance was required. After the first wave of battery replacements, I set up some monitoring to check battery levels and some notifications to myself. However, the biggest issue was the physical size of the thermostats. They were simply too large. This made it impossible to place furniture like cabinets or tables near them. Additionally, 2 broke on their own, 1 was destroyed by my kids, and I broke 1 too. This was my favorite model. It had the longest battery life, operated quietly, but of course it also had the worst battery compartment. You had to completely disassemble it to replace the batteries. The valve was held onto the radiator mounted base by 4 small plastic clips until they eventually broke. I only bought one of the next type, and while it didn't break, it drained the batteries quickly, was noisy, and its rotary encoder was a disaster, poorly debounced and frustrating to use. The third model had the best battery compartment, requiring only the top cap to be removed for the battery replacement. However, it was also the most power hungry and noisy, and its smaller plastic clips didn't last long, even though their only job was to hold the batteries in place. After the last winter, I started thinking, there has to be a better way. I wanted to forget the batteries, no more constant replacement. I wanted to make them smaller, no more bulky furniture blocking designs. And for God's sake, I wanted to avoid mains voltage near the radiators. Running 230 volt wiring would require extensive wall chasing all around the house, and I don't like to mixing water and high voltages anywhere near each other. So, time to find a smarter solution. At this point, I already knew that 24 volt needs to reach the radiators. I could run power from the server room, but this would require extensive cable routing, and with 20 plus meter of wiring, the voltage drop would be significant. Not to mention, I need a larger power supply to handle the load. Another option is sending a higher DC voltage to the radiators and stepping it down locally, but this would require either one central controller or 12 distributed one. And let's be honest, the idea of adding 10 plus new Wi-Fi devices to an already noisy RF environment makes my screen crawl. Then it hit me. Can I design a circuit that extracts power from a PoE switch? The following is a summary from Wikipedia. Here you can see the currently known PoE standards. Since Type 3 and 4 switches are extremely expensive, I will focus on PoE+. For start playing with the PoE, I choose this HP Procure device. On one hand, I have 248 port version of it, which unfortunately do not support power over Ethernet. On the other hand, it supports 4 10GB SFP Plus modules at the back with 2 expansion cards. While browsing the internet, I found the TI TPS 2375 EVM module, so the next step was to interpret the documentation and design a PCB to extract the approximately 48 volt DC voltage from the switch. It was important that the module supports 1 gigabit per second speed, and I also came up with a few other PoE related ideas. After successfully creating the PoE PD, I needed a power supply that could handle 50 volt plus input voltage and provide at least 3 amp of current and not act as a heater. That's what the radiator's for after all. Additionally, I needed a solution where the voltage selector could be implemented to avoid designing multiple versions of the different fixed output voltages. The selected IC met all the requirements, and its software function proved useful in preventing the switch from triggering the overcurrent protection. This module can withstand 60 volt input voltage and 3.5 amp output current. During previous outages, it was frustrating that we couldn't see or hear the kids in the attic. Since there are UPS units alongside the servers, PoE device can survive a short power outage. Additionally, if needed, I can power the servers and the heating system components from a generator. Suddenly, a few other ideas came to my mind about where PoE could be useful. Fortunately, the phone supports it natively, but my two older cameras and the baby monitor do not. For this, I needed a lower complexity device without any microcontroller. Here you can see the third iteration of my PoE ejector. You possibly noticed that this version of the PCB has a class and voltage selector with the possibility to put in some dummy load. And the last picture you can see the box below the Hue bridge with the PCB inside. The device called IoTGV is an x86 based mini PC that serves as a ZigBee coordinator in the center of the house running ZigBee to MQTT. This device requires a laptop power supply and unfortunately sometimes demands peak currents above 2 amps. Since 20 volt at 2 amps equal 40 watt, it is clear that this setup won't work. Eventually I will need a 60 watt PoE++ switch, and I will probably have to modify parts of the circuit as well. But let's jump back to the TRVCs. I have to run UTP cables from the servers to every part of the house. I bought the cable ducts and started planning the cable routes. The first step was drilling a hole large enough for a protective conduit in the floor. After that, I began installing the cable ducts. So far, I have completed 15 cables and already used up a 300 meter box of Cat6 cable. The image below shows the same setup from both the top and the bottom perspectives. In the left image, the thin grey conduit between the two copper pipes is the one visible here, down in the corner. The thick conduit ends in the cable duct and then bends upward. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it look neater because there is a reinforced concrete beam running right there, and I would rather not drill into that. This is the living room. As you can see, I'm in the middle of the renovation because the original wallpaper was damaged in several places during the installation of the cable ducts. Since we wanted to remove it anyway, I started plastering and painting in parallel with the cabling work. On the left side of the image, the cable runs up parallel with the big orange arrow from the floor, which I show you on the previous slide, and then branch out in different directions. To the left, blue arrow, Hue bridge and IoT gateway. Upward, small orange arrow, this is the children's living room. To the right, green arrow, and from there further upwards, the other orange to the children's bedroom, and well as downwards and the right, master bedroom, guest room and upper hallway. And as I promised, YouTube reaching is imminent. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, let's keep the smoke inside. Bye bye.